Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lived Experiences Revealed. I'm Dr. Tamia Ryan, and today we're talking about the stories we didn't choose. So, these are stories that we often inherit from our families, culture, or just overall society. You may have had that moment where you're sitting at a family gathering or some sort of work function, and you caught yourself repeating almost word for word something that someone else believes in. And it might hit you at that moment that those aren't really your beliefs, but stories that you've inherited. Once you can tap into that, you can start exploring what stories you want to own. Now, there's three truths about inherited stories. There's this sort of invisible inheritance that happens. We all have this story library that was given to us before we could even communicate. So these are stories about what success looks like, how relationships should work, what we're allowed to want, who we're supposed to be. And these stories were given to us. They're running in the background of our decisions every day. So these unspoken stories, they really can become powerful. They can start to lead your narrative and the lines can get blurred. You're not sure which stories are actually yours or which ones were just actually just chosen for you. And sometimes these stories are passed down from generation to generation. Now, this is something that I really want you to think about. Some of the most limiting stories in your life might actually be healing attempts from previous generations or previous experiences. So think about it. You might have this caution around money, right? You might have this focus on security. Maybe there was a uncertainty theme that prevailed in your family. You might have this drive to achieve, and maybe that comes from those who didn't have opportunities. So these aren't just random beliefs. They're actually strategies that are no longer serving you because, again, they're not yours. They were chosen for you. Now, once you have this sort of conscious inheritance, this is really a game changer that works for a lot of people. You've got to decide which stories that you've inherited that you want to keep. Okay. And sometimes we want to keep parts of the story, right? We don't want to throw the whole story out because it might be serving us, but there might be parts that we need to release and we might need to rewrite. So it's just like thinking about inheriting an old house, right? You can preserve what's beautiful, you can keep the things that are of value to you, but then you're going to renovate what needs updating. You're going to rebuild what doesn't work anymore, right? Now, let's do an exercise that I think might be helpful for you. And if you need to pause it and come back to it, that's just fine. This is called the story inventory. So when you notice a belief that pops up, and it might just feel like this is just the way things are. This is just how it is, right? I want you to pause and I want you to ask yourself, where did I learn this? And who told me that this was true? So those are those moments where you're just sort of in this rut, in this routine, you're continuing to do things as is. I want you to stop for a moment and think about, where did you learn this? Who told you that it was true? And then I want you to consider, is it still serving you or your future? Okay. So, like we talked about that old house, right? That has these beautiful elements in it, but there's some parts that need some updating, right? Maybe you need to regut the whole bathroom, right? Or you want to redo the whole kitchen. What are the parts of that story that are serving you? And this is where you can take back control. You can keep, you can modify, or you might decide you want to totally release that whole story, that it is serving no purpose in your life anymore. Now, I want you to keep in mind that acknowledging inherited stories isn't about casting blame, okay? Because that's going to get you into that mode where you're feeling anger and you're often feeling stuck again because you're not feeling power, you're not feeling control. So you can acknowledge those stories. It's not about passing blame. It's about freeing your future. So we're always looking forward on how our lives can improve, how our stories can become our own. Now, some of the common inherited stories that show up are thinking that people like us don't do X, Y, and Z, right? Or you don't have to have success without struggle. You shouldn't aim too high. You need to put others first always, right? These are some of the limiting stories that, again, they become this code that runs in the background that we feel that we have to live up to. Now, remember, as I talked about sort of renovating that house, right? Keeping those things of value that you find value in, right? Um, there are ways that you can honor your past. There's ways that you can honor your family, your culture, society, without feeling like you're stuck. So the greatest honor is healing, perhaps from what others couldn't, right? Maybe, again, it's not about casting blame. They weren't in that position. They didn't have the resources to do that. But you're taking back control of your story. So I'd love for you to share in the comments what's one story you've inherited that you're ready to examine, and how might rewriting this story change your path? And again, support one another in doing this because it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of effort. These are stories that have been running in our backgrounds for a very long time. Your inherited stories can help you survive, but your chosen stories are the ones that will help you to continue to thrive. So take what serves you and lovingly release what doesn't. Stay tuned for more episodes of The Lived Experiences Revealed. Don't forget to subscribe so you can catch every episode. Until then, remember, some stories were given to you, but your future story belongs to you.